Oh, man, let's dig into it. The Carolina Panthers did the very Carolina Panther thing, and they proved, as we like to say, Will Brinson, senior NFL writer, CBSSports.com, just not restaurant quality. There's no other way to put it. They showed themselves to be not even really mediocre in their approach to the way they played the Saints. I've already been through it extensively, so let me just ask your thoughts on what we saw from the Carolina Panthers, especially offensively. Really hard to complain about the defense other than J.C. Horn falling down twice at bad times. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said last week, didn't I, that the Saints might be trouble just because they're going to throw a bunch of junk offense. And,
yeah,
they didn't totally do that. I mean, we got 7 Taysom Hill carries. A pass.
Those were largely ineffective.
Yeah, I mean, that junk offense didn't work. What did work was Tyler Shuck, like the 33-year-old, 15-year college quarterback steps in and plays pretty well against Carolina's defense.
Yeah.
The offense there for Carolina, you're at home, you're 5-4. You've got a chance to at least put yourself into the actual playoff discussion.
Yeah, even if you're not good, right? Then they're not good. Even if they're not good, you had a chance to fake it for one more week.
Right. At least keep the John Daly, Tiger Woods, Kansas City Chief memes alive for one more week, right? I mean, and now it's pretty hard to find a path. I think you can make the case. Carolina's still 5-5. They're just, they're not right. They're not dead in the division. And I guess you could make the argument that beating the Packers and losing to the Saints is sort of a washout, but that win over the Packers, I think even, it's the opposite. It really emphasized the need to beat the Saints because, as we pointed out, you had the 49ers on the road left on your schedule. You have the Rams at home left on your schedule, and the Rams look like one of the 3 best teams in football. You have the Seahawks left on your schedule at home, and the Seahawks look like one of the 3 best teams in football. You got to go to New Orleans as well after your Week 14 bye. You have the Falcons this week, and it's on the road. They're going to want some revenge. I think they've been an up-and-down team. You don't know what's going to happen. And then the Bucs twice. So, you still control your own destiny to a degree in the division because you have Tampa. But what you wanted to be was in a position where if you lost to Tampa or got swept by Tampa or got swept by those NFC West teams, you weren't totally dead. And now if that happens, if the Panthers are overpowered by teams that are better than them, then Carolina just doesn't have a shot. They're going to finish in the middle of the pack and get an okay draft pick and not really have ever scared the playoffs. So it's kind of worst case, honestly. I mean, everybody will probably keep their jobs, but I don't know. It's like worst case scenario, I think, in the NFL to be a team that's not good enough to even have a chance at the playoffs, but not bad enough to chase that number 1 pick.
Will Brinson, senior NFL writer, CBSSports.com. He sorts the Sunday pile. It's funny. For years, I was labeled as the guy who never would fire a coach. Herb Sendek's good coach. Whatever. I'm not going to get into I'm not going to relitigate all of those things. There are probably times I was wrong. But Dave Canales does nothing for me. Nothing at all for me. And, there are times where, I praised him. I thought last week the way they approached the Packers game was brilliant. Exactly the way you should approach the game. We're gonna suck the fun out of the sport. We're going to slow it down because we're not as good as you. So we are going to limit possessions, try to frustrate you, and it worked. The Packers played an immature game, and the Panthers took advantage of it and put themselves in a position with these 2 weeks back-to-back. Saints at home, Falcons on the road, who were a mess who could lose to anybody, where you could win these 2 games and suddenly, out of nowhere, be 7-4 and be staring at, Mike, we might be able to do this. But they took the exact same approach. Why are they going slow against a team that they are maybe not significantly better in personnel because the Panthers don't have great personnel, but you're certainly not worse than the Saints. So why were you approaching the game exactly the same way? When your offense is stagnant after the first drive, do we not pick up the pace? Are we allergic to tempo, to no huddle? What was Bryce Young good at last year? He was good at the 2-minute drill, especially in the fourth quarter. Did we even attempt that? It is the worst game planning. I credit Dave Canales for basically calling himself out on it after the game because he did. Like, we have to have a better option. They had no options. Ike Ekwonu said the preparation for this week wasn't good. That's damning. That's damning to this coaching staff.
Well, and I think, too, you talk about the juxtaposition of the Packers game and the Saints game. If you're a 13.5-point underdog on the road against what is allegedly a good football team, yeah, you want to drag it down into the muck and to minimize their possessions, to make them be perfect, to steal some scores. When you're a 5.5-point home favorite, you have to realize that the other team wants to do that to you.
Yeah.
Like, you are on the other side of the coin. So you cannot play the same game. And I think, we saw this with the job that Baker Mayfield's success in Tampa is what got Dave Canales hired as Panthers head coach. And it's what got Liam Cohen hired as Jaguars head coach. And, maybe we should start thinking that it's Baker Mayfield and not those coaches. Because even with Tampa Bay, they would just run Rachaad White into the line a bunch, and then Baker would have to come up with some magic. And, the team was good offensively enough to make the playoffs. Dave Canales gets some credit. He leaves. And really the offense got better after he left. So, I think David Tepper, it behooves him to be patient. But I don't think that Dave Canales is the type of coach that's going to operate any sort of offense or clearly any sort of game plan that's going to take you from middling team to next level team. And you're right. The Panthers don't have the personnel to be some dangerous playoff squad. It feels like, 7 and 9 or 7 and 10, 8 and 9, something like that is best case scenario for Carolina.
Yeah. 8 and 9 is probably best case scenario. But as you said, and this is where, I was kind of enjoying for Victoria as a Panthers fan. I want her to enjoy, to have some hope when we head, around Thanksgiving to still be, at least in terms of the math, still in a playoff hunt. To see the Panthers on the board in the hunt is cool for Panthers fans who we speak to. I mean, probably 40% of our audience are Panthers fans. And then, we're scattered all over the other place.
Got a bunch of Commies fans in Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah, we do. We probably have a whole bunch of Cowboys and Steelers fans. We'll get to the Steelers in a second. But it's just so disappointing. Also, for the people who are hating on Bryce, and I'm not even going to pretend that this was a great Bryce Young performance. It was a bad one. But, like I said in the opener, when Tedero and McMillan went up with one hand for a touchdown pass, he could have gotten with 2. Xavier Legette, you got to do better. It was a horrible play call on 4th and 3 because really what they needed at that point, it might have been still 10-7. You just needed a first down. You didn't need a touchdown. You just needed a first down. Now, the pass was good. Could have been caught by Xavier Legette. But he's not strong enough at this point. Whether he wasn't prepared to fight through defense, looked like he might have been held, but still, you got to be stronger. That was a good throw. Bryce doesn't get credit for it from the dopes on Twitter, but I don't really care about them. But that was a good throw. They didn't take advantage of it, but the play call was terrible, and they didn't. I don't think they respected the game the way they needed to.
Exactly, and I think that's part of the problem is they started kind of sniffing their own toots, if you will, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, look at us, we're 5-4. We're 5.5-point favorite at home. It's like you can't take any. Again, the Packers took a game lightly against Carolina in Week 9, and it cost them a win against a questionable football team. The Panthers, you cannot, if you're the Carolina Panthers, even contemplate once over the course of a season taking a game lightly. You're not good enough to take a game lightly. Every week needs to be maximum effort, maximum preparation. If you get caught looking ahead as the Carolina Panthers at 5-4, that is really damning on the leadership of that football team.
All right, let me move on. Speaking of looking ahead or taking a game lightly, what are the Buffalo Bills doing? You can't. If you purport to be a Super Bowl contender, and I'm not even telling you that they're not a Super Bowl contender because Josh Allen wearing a helmet and shoulder pads makes you a Super Bowl contender. How do you lose at Atlanta and at Miami. One of those I can almost excuse. You can't. You can't do that twice. They're not going to win the division now. I mean, I guess they could. They still have one game left with the Patriots. They're a game and a half behind. But I don't think they're winning the division now, which means they're on the road for the duration of the playoffs. I just don't understand how you get punked by the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you can make a case that you come out of the bye, you throttle the Panthers, you don't look ahead to the Chiefs game, you take care of business against Kansas City at home, and then maybe this was a more obvious letdown spot as a huge favorite on the road in the division against a Dolphins team that has lots of talent and has played well at times, but is clearly an inferior squad to Buffalo. But yeah, it's like those losses. Your teams are even good teams are going to have some of those losses over the course of the season. Now, the great teams don't have those slip ups on the road as heavy favorites. They go into town and they take care of business and they win by you cover, right? You go to maybe you don't even cover the 9.5, but you go to Miami and you find a way to win. I mean,
you win the game.
They got blown out.
Yeah,
like this game. They didn't score until the fourth quarter. The Bills against the Dolphins defense. The Dolphins just traded away Jalen Phillips. Like the Dolphins were traders at the deadline. I mean, they were you don't score against the Dolphins. Yeah. And granted, the Dolphins' run defense has been better in the last couple of weeks, which is kind of surprising. Like we saw them bottle up Bijan Robinson. Now they bottle up James Cook. But there's really no excuse to go down to Miami in the middle of November. It's not like it's, September 1 and it's, or September 7th or whatever. And it's like 160 degrees. You're just not prepared for it. I mean, you got to go down to Miami and at least be competitive. And they really weren't. And to not score for 3 quarters against a Dolphins team that shouldn't be stopping the Bills at really any stretch is extremely damning for them. I think, in the AFC this year in particular, you would really like to get that bye. I mean, you're gonna have to play. It looks like we talk about the Ravens. It looks like Lamar's. They're gonna get to the playoffs.
Oh, they're gonna win that division.
Yeah, they're gonna win that division. The Patriots look like a problem, and the Patriots, by the way, 3 games. They had their bye the week before they played the Bills. They have 2 games left with the Jets. They haven't even played the Jets yet. They have the Bengals. They have the Giants. And they have the Dolphins again in Week 18. The Patriots are in a really good position. Even if the Patriots are a little bit of a paper tiger, maybe the coaching is so good with Mike Vrabel, and Drake May is playing at a requisitely high level. He is a justifiable MVP favorite, I think, at this point. I don't think he'll win. I think Mahomes or Matthew Stafford should win. Matthew Stafford should be the favorite. But Drake May deserves the statistical setup he's at.
Just to be mentioned.
They're just not going to – they are too well coached by Mike Vrabel to lose enough games for the Bills to overtake them now, it feels like, at this point.
It does. And when you look at Buffalo's remaining schedule, they got the Buccaneers next. Then they're at the Texans and Steelers. And look, Buffalo's better than both of those teams. But on the road against 2 teams that will be absolutely desperate to win games – the Steelers, if they want to make the playoffs, they're going to have to find some wins somewhere. And we know that team is at least capable. Aaron Rodgers, who we're going to get to in a second, any given Sunday, Aaron Rodgers shows up as 35-year-old Aaron Rodgers and not, 46, 48, I don't know, whatever he is.
Yeah, 40, he's right? Even 40 or 41.
Right. So,
and then the bigger concern, too, I think, is that, you've now seen – some teams absolutely run all over the Bills. I mean, Devon Achane had 174 yards in those 2 breakaways. I get that he's a speed demon, and that's sort of part of his game, but he's been bottled up by worse defenses. So, or not worse defenses. It's just I don't know that the Bills are built for this Super Bowl run in the way that they have been in the past, where they can stop you on defense. They look like a bad defensive team, the exception being the Carolina game where they dominated the Panthers coming out of the bye, and then just an all-out A+ effort against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs' defensive performance by the Bills might be the anomaly.
Well, I agree. The Bills' 2 most impressive games were against the Panthers and the Jets. So take that for what it's worth. As for the Steelers, By the way, the Chargers were this week's survivor pool. The Hobag pick was Los Angeles at home to the Steelers. I ignored the Panthers over the Saints wisely, yes. The circa $18.7 million survivor pool, more people were on the Panthers than any other team. It was close between them and the Broncos. Bills were like third or fourth on the list. They lost probably 35 to 40% of the pool just in those two.
And just
games.
To be clear, like it did make some sense to take the Panthers because you have to take a risk in these survivors. You know, you have to play a Thanksgiving team. Like the Panthers are 5.5-point favorites.
You do, right?
If you know they were going to take the game seriously, you wouldn't have played them, right? But yeah, it was a tough week, and Denver really should have lost too. It should be down to like 10 people.
Absolutely,
in all these survivor pools.
The Broncos won. And let me just real quick throw in the Broncos. I wasn't going to talk about the Broncos. I really want to get to the Steelers. We only have like a minute and a half left. At some point, we're going to wake up and we're going to realize the Broncos can't play offense, and you can't win if you can't play offense, right?
Yeah, I mean, Denver, like the Raiders played 77 snaps on Sunday in Week 9 on defense. That is it. That is an insane amount. They should have been completely gassed going on a short week to Denver, and the Broncos should have been able to do whatever they wanted on offense, and they didn't do anything. Now, I do think with Sean Payton there and having seen Bo Nix play well, they could click at a certain point, but they really feel more like a wild card team that's going to, you know, maybe they steal the division. I don't think it's likely, but maybe. You know, they feel more like a wild card team that's going to be a problem for 1 week and then be sent packing the next week.
That is the way it looks to me. I mean, ultimately it comes down to they would say defense wins championships. No, it doesn't. Offense wins championships. Defense gives you a chance, and the Broncos have a great defense. But ultimately, I mean, they should have lost to the Jets in London. Should have. The Jets screwed that game. I'm still mad that I watched it. And to only beat the Raiders 10-7. I mean, you're not saving offense for anybody. All right, final thing. Are the Steelers cooked?
It might be. I mean, the back end of the schedule is really tough. They're going to get the Ravens completely healthy, right? I mean, or at least, obviously injuries can happen in the next 4 weeks. But, they get the Bengals this week. Still, obviously, no Joe Burrow, but they've lost to this Bengals team, once in the last month. I mean, they could certainly lose again because the defense has shown that it can step up. But again, we talk about aberrations. The Colts game feels like that aberration where the defense stepped up. Bears, pretty frisky team. You get them in 2 weeks. Then you get the Bills at home, at the Ravens. You still have to play at Detroit. You still have to play at Cleveland, which is never an easy win. And then you have Baltimore to close out the season. So they're still in the playoff mix. But, I mean, the Ravens are rightfully massive favorites to win the division, similar to last year where Baltimore struggled early, got the defense sort of figured out. They didn't play great against Minnesota, but they found a way to win.
Right.
And now Baltimore can prep for the stretch run, knowing they get the Steelers twice. You win those two games, and the division's basically over.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Mike Tomlin was.
Steelers are almost a mortal lock to finish exactly 9-8. Like exactly 9-8. And Mike Tomlin keeps the streak alive, but they don't look very good. You don't really trust them going into the postseason.
And this is what I don't get. I mean, why? And I'm running way too long here, but why teams are not prepared for when your quarterback, your Hall of Fame quarterback, is done. This is why the Packers are a top-notch organization, because they were prepared. This is why the Steelers, as good an organization as it is, were not prepared for the end of Ben Roethlisberger.
Yep.
And it wasn't like this was just a couple of years ago. What are we talking about now? We're talking about 6 years without Ben, right?
Well, and they tried to do the thing where, just like basically right after, so Joe Flacco left. Joe Flacco got too old, so the Ravens were like, it's time to move on, and drafted Lamar Jackson. And then the Steelers tried to carbon copy that by taking Kenny Pickett in a terrible quarterback draft class, which is just not the move.
Yeah, it's a 6-7 thing, Kenny Pickett and Lamar Jackson. Like, what a disaster. Like, Aaron Rodgers, like every other week, every third week, shows you, or even within games, he has flashes of Aaron Rodgers. But for the most part, he's a 41-year-old guy. He just isn't the same. Why could dopes like me see that and freaking the Steelers can't.
He's not the same. They don't have very good wide receivers and pass catchers. They like to use too many tight ends in the offense and try to run the ball too much. And the defense isn't as good as they want it to be.
And Arthur Smith
just the bottom line. Either, and you can't ask Aaron Rodgers to win every game for you.
Yeah. And again, the defense isn't what it used to be. Will Brinson, senior NFL writer, CBSSports.com. All right, my friend. Appreciate it. We'll talk again next week.
All right, buddy. Talk to you next week.